Very well known as being very liberal, came within a hair of being elected mayor. And there were several other people along the way who made good runnings and came very close to getting into council too. So it's an effort well worth pursuing. And I think as people get more and more concerned about issues that have to do with conservation and so forth, and as the demographics of the area change, I mean, it's part of the nation, and the demographics of the nation are changing, and population keeps coming in and growing. It's well worth it to try to get good people elected into council, because they will either come close and push things that direction, or some of them will get in, and it only takes a little bit more to make a serious change in things. Along that line, one of the people who's in there now is Alexa Scholl. And I didn't know Alexa before. I have known her in other ways around Prescott, other connections around Prescott. And I have talked to her some since she's been on council. And I don't know where her head was at when she first got into council, but she's a good example of, since council is all about, everything is always about politics and personalities and so forth, the dynamics of all these things. A good way to influence council and the city and how things go is the relationships with these people. I think it's unfortunate that Alexa got on because she's young and was studying politics as a student, and it looked like a good change. And I really don't know where her head was at, but I think it would have been worthwhile for all of the conservation groups and activist groups and people with various concerns in the city to have done more to befriend her and convey those viewpoints more. Not that she's just, a piece of putty to be manipulated, but you want to get the thoughts and the heart of people across to them. It's not enough to just get the bullet point ideas across. People have, it's still Prescott, it's still kind of a personal town. You still got to be able to have connections with people, and that makes a difference. And it might have been that had more of that happen with Alexa, and I felt myself on that too, since I had some connection with her, that I only connected with her a little bit after she got on council. But that's the kind of thing where you can get to know people and have a rapport and have an influence, and they get to see you more human, and they get to see your points as having more validity and considering them more. And I've done that with a number of council people over time, people who aren't on council now. Well, there's one or two who had never talked to me at all. But even, people who I was able to have a relationship with because of my writing columns and their being on the council, and I would approach them that way. And so we would get to spending time together, and you get a lot more across in those personal relationships. And I think part of how an organization like Prescott Indivisible can influence is to make an effort to have relationships with those people, with management, with council people.
We do that. We're on that. It's not like we don't have relationships with them. And we also invited Alexis many times when she was running. She came to our picnic, she spoke to us, and we are very connected with City Council. They just don't like
It's,
us that much, but we are definitely having relationships with them.
that's great. That's good stuff. That's excellent. And do it in a one-on-one method too, because that's good as well. But if you've been doing that, then you know that it has an effect. It does build a rapport and kind of gets across. I was just dealing with somebody in the city not long ago who was just absolutely convinced that anybody who was fighting for water issues, who was fighting for conservation issues, must be a no-growther, and all you people, you no-growthers and so forth. And out of extended conversations, they kind of came to see that it wasn't a matter of no growth. It was, well, you know, if we have the resources and it's a free country, people are going to come. But the question is, do we have the resources? Can we do it without drying up the aquifer? Oh, well, yeah, okay. In that case, you know, that's kind of a different story. That give and take kind of can change some minds, and that can be very important. But when they do run the elections, they are run as nonpartisan. People don't list themselves as Democrat or Republican. Pretty much everybody knows who is, but it's not broken up that way. And then it's kind of ironic, but they do have a primary, and you would think that would be about parties, but it's not. It's kind of a first run of who's going to get enough votes to qualify for the final election in November then. But usually, more times than not, the people who get enough votes in the primary have enough to have solid majorities, and there doesn't need to be any runoff in November. So generally, the election happens in the primary. Sometimes there's a runoff in November for some last two members who didn't quite get majorities, and they got to have a runoff election between them. I'm just kind of looking through my notes here in no particular logical order. So the council, as you've no doubt followed, does a lot of things in executive sessions. There's executive sessions, there's public sessions. There are some things they absolutely cannot do outside of executive session, where they have to do with personnel matters and things like that. And that's to be expected. But it sure seems like an awful lot goes on by executive session, way more than you would think just by the structure of having executive sessions for those things that need to be set aside. They kind of do all of their business in the executive session and then just come out in the public and kind of have their final votes. And that's only slightly different. Of course, there's the quorum rules. Council members can't just go wander around and talk to one another and have individual little conversations and sort of put together almost an informal council session or come to a majority decision. And then when they get in the full meeting, they've kind of already, you know, a majority's already decided that. They have to kind of keep themselves separate from one another on these discussions as far as that can be done. So that it happens in the sessions that are recorded, they're formal. But when it so much happens in executive session, it comes close to that same idea of happening outside of public view. It's the same problem, and that gets to something that I know it has been discussed before about the fact that the city doesn't have much of a procedure for a lot of things. Council doesn't have a lot of procedure for a lot of things that it does. As CWAG has been very good at pointing out, and Gary Beverly's been good at pointing out, oftentimes water decisions and conservation decisions just kind of trickle out or show up on the agenda with nothing like a written statement of, well, what is the problem that's being addressed? Why are we changing anything? Written statement of, well, we've looked into the ramifications and here are the pluses and the minuses and here's what we can expect to happen out of this. Oftentimes not a written statement about what is the legality of it? Now, if somebody challenges, oftentimes they will get something from the city attorney or just have the city attorney make a statement in session. But oftentimes not. Things just kind of trickle out without any particular procedure. And I think that's a key thing that could be pushed as something for the future to improve, that would give the citizens and activist groups a lot more chance to be involved in the process. If the city had a formal procedure for doing pretty much anything that affects significant city business that required such statements, then that would make for a longer process. It would make for more of a chance to think these things out and see the ramifications, more of a chance for citizens to be involved and edit and revise and have input on those statements. And in the course of that, there might be much more of a chance to end up at good decisions, or at least make the bad decisions clearer as to why they're bad decisions, which then would have an effect on the next election, hopefully. And the fact that they don't have much of any of that process is kind of surprising, because not so much now, but at times in the past, they have had a number of people on council who are very experienced business people who ran, kind of challenging, successful businesses, who must be very, familiar with having procedures and the problems you can get into by loose management or management that doesn't have any feedback loop. You make a decision, you don't appoint any time or person or way to study the results and get feedback and say, well, did that work or did it not? Did it actually happen or did it not? Good management knows that's a recipe for disaster. And some of the people who've been on council surely know that, but somehow it's never been applied to council. And I think that's part of how it could be made appealing to voters and to council, is that it is good management. Anybody who's has experience in upper management knows that, and knows that it's a problem if you don't do things that way. And that's a good business-oriented angle to push that, I think. Two other little pieces of it, and then I'll come back to Michael Lamar. We know we have citizen initiatives. If you can get enough signatures from citizens, they got to be citizens of Prescott, and that's part of the problem. So many people who think of themselves as part of Prescott and want to be involved in Prescott stuff live just in those little nooks and crannies that are not actually part of Prescott. You got to get signatures from people who are part of Prescott. You can get a citizens initiative on a ballot and get actions passed, and that's the way both the controlled growth and the water initiative propositions 400 and 401 both got through. And it showed that the citizens, were really behind that. Even apparently a lot of the ones who keep electing some of the council members who oppose that, if you put together the number of people who voted for Proposition 401, for instance, and the people who vote for some of the long-standing council members, they got to be overlapping. So there's to some extent, it doesn't make any sense. And I think that also means that it's an approachable issue. It's an issue that can be moved. The one other thing that the piece that an activist group can use is, and I forgot to look this up before, it just occurred to me a little while before the meeting, exactly what the name or the procedure is, but there is a way written into the city code for citizens to bring an item to council and compel council to respond to it. And we did that, I believe it was during the Occupy Prescott part, and we put forward a proposition, a non-binding statement that the city of Prescott was in favor of, and I can't remember the exact details, but it was a pretty middle of the road kind of thing of that, finance should be a responsibly run thing, and not damage the citizens. And of course, council voted that down, but by law, they had to take a vote on whether they agreed with that and kind of go on the record about that. Now, you don't want to use that kind of thing a lot because it gets to be annoying. It gets to look petty to people who are kind of sitting on the fence. But at strategic times, it's a good tool to use. And I'll have to go back and look up the exact name of that and part of the code that applies to that, and I can get that back to you. But the last thing I'll touch on is Michael Lamar. Different people who've dealt with him have different impressions. He seems to be, he's a smart guy. He does keep a fairly tight rein on management, keep council out of it. He seems to be a pretty rational person. He's looking for rational solutions to problems. And some people have a very good impression of him, that he's really someone who's on the side of conservation and good actions, and is just limited by what he can do within the politics of the situation. Other people have an impression that he's really just playing a game and just comes off that way. My impression is that he's more intending to do some good things, but somewhat constricted by what he can do politically and so forth. But he's another person who, while oftentimes I can talk with him and get rational, what seem like good points of view out of him, other times he's clearly been on board with or influenced by very kind of reactionary points of view. And I think that's another case where the more positive interaction he gets with people who are interested in conservation and water and low growth and so forth, the more he will not get captured by the reactionary points of view, and the more encouraged he will be to be bold about taking some good actions. And I think with that, I've covered a random bunch of stuff, and I can answer some questions.
Thank you very much, Tom. We do have a few questions, and as Maria said at the beginning of the meeting, we have a very full agenda. So let's start. I'm going to do a quick one because many of our members are not from Prescott. Do the neighboring cities have a similar type of setup with a manager, just generally speaking? Yeah.
As I understand Prescott Valley's arrangement, it's very similar. Chino's, I am not so sure about their structure.
Okay, thank you so much. And then there's a question about how do we hire a city attorney?
That's by council and the city manager.
Okay, let me see why I scroll down to another. How did a liberal come close to being elected mayor?
Because he was very credible. He had managed some big organizations. He was popular. It's kind of like the way the Save the Dells and Proposition 401 and some of those things are popular. And it's kind of like even nationally, Democratic policies tend to be very popular, even though the votes don't go that way.
Okay. Now, do you think that council members read or respond to comments that are sent to the Prescott website?
I think they see them. I think when there's a lot of them, it may influence them to simply say, oh, there's a lot of special interest people complaining, but at least they know the degree of pressure, and I think that's worthwhile.
Okay, because this person goes on to say, I have never received an answer to my concerns. Is there a better way to affect them, to reach them effectively, personally?
To get responses, I don't know.
Or, yeah, but you think that just by reading it, they're somewhat affected?
Yeah, I think by the volume of it and the passion of it, yeah.
Okay, let's see. How much influence does the current Prescott City Attorney have? He seems to be quite involved often with his opinion.
He's another one. He's a great guy to talk to. He seems very affable and so forth. But when you hear him in city council meetings, his opinions are always troublesome. And I think it would be a great thing if different council got elected, that a push be made for them to consider a different attorney. You know, he has his position and council listens to him. So.
Okay. I think I have a couple more. I mean, I have more, but we have time for a couple more. Do you have any info on the wellness survey?
No, I don't.
Okay. What do you think of term limits? Is that a possibility?
They're good and bad, and it depends on the circumstance. At the moment, it might be wonderful to have term limits, and then down the road, we might wish we didn't.
Okay. And go ahead. Somebody was saying something or no? Okay. Then the last question that that I wanted to ask was regarding, you know, if what you're suggesting in terms of good management style requires, you know, basically evaluating whether your decisions have been good ones. Since in this setup, there is a city manager, shouldn't it be his bailiwick to do that and to provide that to the council and say, you know, you guys voted on this, you made me do it, but look at the outcome.
Yeah, and it should. Of course, they have to include that in the budget on anything, that there's going to be a study so far out to study whether such and such an action had a good or bad effect or whatever. But yeah, he should be doing that. I think that both he and council should be pushed for that. But I think it's a good way to sell it to the manager, that sometimes the manager could use that as leverage to push back on council to say, gee, you demanded this and now look what's come out of it, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're running out of time. So if you can do this one very quickly, somebody wants your opinion on that whole Billy Orr replacement situation.
Well, I think I hope it affects the next election, because they are the ones who don't care much about public opinion, really don't care about public opinion and say so all the time. And hopefully it eventually comes back to bite them. Okay.
Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you for a great talk and then fantastic answers. We hope that we'll see you with us again another time. Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Now, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, these are weird when we have to clap in funky ways. Now it is actually my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. I think many of us are quite familiar with Anna Tovar, because she was kind enough to come to a number of events, both of Prescott Indivisible, the Democratic Women of the Prescott area, the Yavapai Democrats, a number of events. She is now one of the commissioners in the Arizona Corporation Commission. She was elected in November, and she has a fantastic track record of having been involved from in Tolleson down in the valley, from being a teacher, being involved in the town council, in the city council, being vice mayor, then in the House of Representatives, in the House down in Phoenix in the legislature, where she was minority whip. Then she was in the Senate in some very key committees. Then she became mayor of Tolleson. And now, so she is one of our great and wonderful rising stars. And she's going to talk to us today about what's going on between the commission and the legislature. Thank you. Anna, are you with us?
Yes, thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. It's just great to be on with you guys this evening. So thank you so much. So I was sworn in to the Arizona Corporation Commission on January 4th. And I just first want to say thank you so very much for all your help, support, votes to get me there. It was a tough battle, and we were hoping to have one more Democrat join us from the solar team, and it didn't happen. But I think that just spurs me more in regards to trying to work even harder in 2022, not only to get Commissioner Kennedy reelected, but also have another opportunity at having a Democrat run and win with her as well too. So looking forward to that. Since January 4th, I've been extremely busy at the Arizona Corporation Commission. I'm loving it. I'm learning new things every day. And it definitely feels like drinking water from a fire hose, because it comes at you very quickly. But I would say one of the things I didn't see coming was all these issues at the state legislature. I think this is a session for them that can be dubbed power control and takeover. So that, we fell into that element as well too, where they're trying to have a power grab at the ACC. We saw it at the last session in regards to them wanting to appoint commissioners instead of having them elected. That didn't go too far, but there are two bills right now that when they started were identical, HB 2248 and SB 1175. Both of those were submitted by the chairs of the committees, and so they were really quickly assigned and heard. Of course, as the chair of a committee, you can do whatever you want on how you hear bills. So I testified in both of those in the House and also in the Senate. Also, I've testified in like two other bills as well too that are detrimental to the Arizona Corporation Commission. But essentially, in a nutshell, what these two bills do is take control of the Arizona Corporation Commission. And so they would like all that power to be at the Arizona legislature. So could you only imagine what could happen if that were the case? But a little bit behind it is that before session started, Governor Ducey had announced at I think it was the chamber luncheon, he just telegraphed what he wanted in regards to these bills. And so we know that, they're working in conjunction with them in regards to taking this power away from the legislature. What is even more insulting is that the five commissioners, when these bills were presented, were going to vote on a stance on it. Commissioner Kennedy and I voted against it because we were elected by the people of Arizona to represent the Arizona Corporation Commission. The three Republicans voted for a neutral stance. And so the very next day after that vote was taken, Commissioner Olson actually testified right after I did on HB 2248, and he signed in opposition. In support, I'm sorry. So he spoke in regards to support of it and has as well, I think, on the Senate bill as well. To fast forward a little bit in regards to both of these bills, HB 2248 passed the House yesterday, partisan, line in regards to it. And then SB 1175 is right now on hold for a third read in the House. They're a little bit different. They're not identical. There were some changes, and trust me, the changes didn't make them better. They made them worse. So that's some very tough news to swallow, because essentially those current bills, we know if they are passed and then signed by the governor, it takes us back to our old renewable energy tariffs that were passed in 2006. So talk about taking a step way backwards in regards to it. Just to refresh your memory, in the 2006 RES rules that were adopted, 12% renewable by 2022, 13% by 2023, 14% by 2024, and 15% by 2025. The existing REST rules also require 30% of the renewable requirement to come out of distributed generation, a DG carve out. And actually the House bill actually took out that carve out in regards to distributed generation. So that was one thing that made it even worse on that issue. So it's right now, my gut feeling on both of these bills is they'll pass on party line. We are working very hard in the Senate to try and stop 1175. So I'm working with the senators that are there as well too, reaching out to Republicans as well too. So we're trying to strategically target that as well too, but definitely would be throwing, this issue into the courts if they are passed. The clincher is that in order for the Arizona Corporation Commission, let's say if both bills pass or one bill passes and it's signed by the governor, then it's up to the Arizona Corporation Commission to actually vote on if we move forward to actually sue, saying like, wait a minute, we don't agree with this, we want to take it to litigation. So it'll take 3 people to vote on that. We know we have 2, but we don't know about the other one. So that is probably another, I would say, ask from me in regards if you are emailing your corporation commissioner, and please encouraging them, if it does pass, then we can have some language to actually call, email on to actually vote to move it forward for litigation in itself. The other 2 bills, SB 1459 was brought forward by admin assistant that worked for Commissioner Olson. So she brought forward HB 2737, which is the Attorney General investigation. So in regards to any decision that will be made at the state legislature, and it's retroactive as well too. If any citizen inquires to their legislator that they don't agree with that decision, then a legislator can then file a complaint to the AG and halt that decision that was made at the ACC. Yes, that is super, super scary. And also it would penalize the ACC if it was found to be true by the Attorney General's report. It would actually take away from our fund up to $2.8 million. Each time a complaint is filed and the AG agrees, that's what would be given back to the general fund at the legislature. So hopefully we're also working on that bill itself too, to make sure that it does not go through, because you could only imagine anything that we decide on would actually be held up. Because a legislator can actually just stop that process. The other one is SB 1459. It's been run before. I think it was, there was a former chairman that ran it before. And then now the chairman of the judiciary, Peterson, ran it. It's admin review agency decision. Another very bad bill, which actually would take every decision that we make and put it into the Superior Court and tie it up for many, many years. And so Superior Court actually would not want this, because it would actually bring a lot of work to them as well too. And just seeing that many of the things are technical in nature with decisions, they probably wouldn't know what to do with it. So that bill has legs. It actually has passed the Judiciary Committee and is scheduled to probably pass out of the Senate and head over onto the House. And last but not least, there was a meeting yesterday we had one at the Commission and there was one at the Senate. The one that I brought forward was an emergency meeting in regards to tainted water from Luke Air Force Base with the PFOS forever chemicals. So been working really hard the past 2 weeks to bring that meeting to fruition and actually speaking with all the stakeholders in regards to it. So we had our first meeting yesterday. There is a small water company that right now currently cannot fulfill its duty of delivering safe and reliable water to its customers. And so Luke Air Force Base is handing out bottled water to those residents. So that's one thing that I'm working on right now. Just scratch the surface on that because there's so much in regards to that forever chemical in regards to how long it's been used at the base. And so I'm going to keep up on that. And my goal is to educate the consumers there in the West Valley and really push for a permanent solution so that people don't have to second guess when they turn on their faucet, whether they can cook with it or drink from it as well too. The one at the legislature, they called for a grid stability meeting at it was the Natural Resource Senate hearing yesterday. So they heard from all the major utilities in Arizona in regards to it. A question was asked of APS in regards to if they actually support the clean energy rules that the ACC has proposed, or do they support the bills that are going through the legislature? They refused to comment, but I would say about a month ago, in my first actual questioning, I questioned the CEO of APS, Mr. Goldner, in regards to this and got him on the record in regards to this as well too. So what he said at that hearing and then what the company said yesterday were contradictory. So I wrote a letter today and I'll drop it in the actual chat room, the chat here so that you can read it, where I'm calling him out and actually holding him accountable and saying, which one is it? So you can read that, click on it. But I think I've kind of caught you up on things that I'm doing as well too. But of course, I'm here to answer any questions and trying to help with you if there's any issues or concerns in Prescott as well too. Really, truly looking forward to hopefully one day seeing you in person again. But thank you again so much.
Thank you very much. And that was a wonderful overview of all the disasters that are being visited upon us. There is one, there's several questions, but the first one that I wanted to ask you is there, can we get after Ducey to not, to basically to veto the bills?
No, because he's actually pushing for support of the bills. So I think he is one of probably the people behind it and trying to push for it as well too. We can ask for it. Of course, that never, doesn't hurt as well too, and trying to drum up support, for that. We've been outreaching my office to different economic development groups as well too, because this will be very hurtful to our economy here in Arizona. A lot of the people and big, end users come to Arizona to, and they have their money to invest, and they want to, some of them are looking towards, going green, and this would kind of put everything up in the sky, and no one would know what was happening.
Yeah, no, it's just overwhelming. What power does the Arizona Constitution give to the ACC, and do any of the legislature's bills conflict with the Constitution?
Oh yeah, the four that I mentioned are all unconstitutional. They actually held, the SB 1175 and the HB 2248 in rules, because the Rules Committee is the place where they're supposed to be legal in order to move forward. They made minor language changes that didn't change the unconstitutional portion of it, but it still continued on. This is why it's crucial. So if they do pass, the governor signs it, in order for us to claim it's unconstitutional and take it to court, we would need 3 people at the commission to vote for that, to send it to challenge that unconstitutional issue.
Okay, before I ask the last question that I see here, in terms of the ask, well, now there's 2. In terms of the ask, can we stay in touch, or how can we find out when it would be good for our team members, whoever wants to be involved, to start sending those messages to the commissioners, or should people already be involved with the RTS, in terms of affecting the voting in both the House and the Senate, or, just a couple of your ideas on that.
Yes, well, you can definitely still weigh in into the RTS system at the legislature on SB 1175. So if you haven't done that already, please do so, because that one I think has a better chance of actually killing it. So if you can, make sure you register in opposition to that bill, that would be great. I love seeing like the list grow of like opposition to it, and then like the full, like a little bit of supportive on it as well too. Another thing that you can do is you can email all the corporation commissioners in regards to supporting clean energy rules and bringing those for a vote in April. I think that is a major key, because we still need to finalize the clean energy rules. Before I was sworn in, there was a vote taken, which was a bipartisan vote that passed it. But now we need to finalize the actual clean energy rules in order for them to go into effect. So that would be a major boost if you can, just write a quick email to all 5 of us and just say, hey, we support the clean energy rules. And those can actually, if you email my office, I put those emails into the docket for the clean energy rules. Right now, what is happening from Republican groups is that they're emailing all commissioners, and they're using language of like, no, please do not pass the clean energy rules because it's the Green New Deal. So they're trying to bring that confusion into play, and you'll see a lot of those emails into the docket as well too. So I was like, well, I think we just need to step up our game in making sure that, hey, we support the clean energy rules. You can list reasons why you support them in regards to our economy, in regards to our environment, and on how we move forward as a state. That would be amazing. I think that would help very much and to contradict what is currently being put in the docket right now, because all that is just very, very confusing. And I think that is their actual goal, to use language that's confusing.
Yeah, thank you. Control the narrative too, so that it's in their favor. Actually, I want to call out if Carrie and Jim would write something up on this for the newsletter that Molly will be putting out soon. Actually over the Sunday for Wednesday or something like that, please, so that we can get people on the same page working on this. Thank you very much. And then there's 2 more. Maria, how are we doing for time? Sorry, I'm not paying attention. Is she there? Anyway,
yeah, we have to move. We really have to move along. I hate to do it. But.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think she's answered one. Somebody was asking about legislation that is on the fence, and she said that the one that we could affect is SB 1175, and the other one is more about how you feel in your role. But we will get you to come and speak to us another time again, and we are extremely appreciative of your, just you're obviously very busy, and good luck with the issues going on around Luke, and hopefully that can be resolved so that people can, be safe. Thank you again.
I'll be happy to come back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce our treasurer, who is going to give us a very quick treasurer's report, and then we'll move on to team reports. Thank you. Jane?
Hello.
Yes, there she is.
Okay. Can you all see that? Can you see the treasurer's report?
No, we see you.
I've got to do something just to make this work, don't I? Let's see. Share screen. How about that?
Nope.
Huh. See, poor Mavis tried to teach me this so many times. There's supposed to be some, never mind, I found it. There we go. Now you're seeing a white screen.
Yes.
let me get rid of this. Do you see it now?
No?
I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do that I haven't already done.
Well, you can tell us a little bit about the numbers. It should be just share screen, and if it's open on your desktop, open, not just showing on your desk, but if it's open on your desktop, you can click
Yeah.
on it and that's it.
Huh. Because
But
according to the green thing on the top of the page, I am screen sharing.
yes, but you're not screen sharing the right thing.
And we're screen
Anyway.
sharing the, here, let me stop. And then I'll see if I can do it again.
Yay.
I
There
think
she is.
Maria just did that. Okay, so you can see that we've gotten some more income this month. We've had some exciting stuff in racial justice, and I think Rosemary will mention that. I don't know anything overly exciting about it, other than we did barely make it through with a surplus. And for that, we thank you, our donors. And other than that, you can see DACA is ready to go to help people. And I guess I will leave it at that.
Could we mention the generosity of
Oh, yeah.
White Mountain Indivisible?
Thank you.
You want to go ahead, Jane?
Sorry, everybody. I'm not a very good talker at meetings, but the White Mountain Indivisible, it was a total surprise. What they did was, maybe you should explain it, Mary. They formed.
Do you want me to?
Please.
Okay, anyway. We worked, just a little background. We worked with White Mountain Indivisible supplying masks for the Navajo and Hopi and the Apache, excuse me. And they were absorbed into another group. So they donated the funds that they had in their distributed fund to us, which was a little over $600. So we have thanked them. They were very generous. And, you know, another organization I belong to, Democratic Women, we always say stronger together, and it applies across the board. So, you know, we do thank them, and we're looking pretty good. Most money we've ever had. So, and thanks, Jane, for your stewardship.
Yeah. Thank you, Jane. If as soon as you can, on share.
Oh,
Then we can-
I'll stop the share. Sorry.
Okay, there we go. All right. Please, we're going to go on to the team reports, right?
Yes.
So you go ahead, please.
Oh, well, our team reports, the first one is immigration, and Maria Elena Dunn and her group are going to surprise me because I'm not sure what you're going to do. So.
Well, okay, I'm unmuted. If Barbara and Marianne and Jane could unmute yourselves, and Barbara, if you could start, giving a very brief report of what you're knowledgeable about. And in the meantime, I am showing your screen.
Okay, thank you, dear. I think what's most important, as you all know, is that this is a very fluid situation at our border. And if you're just watching the news, you're not getting what's happening. So sometimes it's good to connect with all of these organizations. This came out today, I think, from Keno Border Initiative, and they're asking for people to take action. Keno is getting a little more enlightened. Marianne knows them. She's worked there. And this is one thing you can do. If you mark this, take a picture of this with your phone and make that call on March 11th. And they're asking to let the Homeland Security Secretary, to restore asylum. Okay, so if they were going to barrage them with phone calls that day, that's what they're asking. I talked to Sharon or text Sharon Copina today of Somos America. Some of you knew her. She came up and fundraised. She'd get little packets of snacks. She'd go herself at midnight to the bus station to give to people when they were doing a lot of transportation. Things are moving along now. I mean, with COVID, obviously, and Trump, a lot of that stopped. But she said there's some action in Brownsville. I heard from Frontera de Cristo down in the Douglas area and Agua Prieta area that they haven't started moving people across the border yet, but that will start soon because Tijuana, Yuma is taking up people up to the IRC in Phoenix. So there are some things happening. I shared an address also if you want to give to the organization that Sharon spoke about, and it is for a refugee and it is a 501c3. I don't know if you have that one, Maria Elena, or what I can tell people to do is email me. And I can put my email in the chat if you want that information, because the refugee group would love your donations. I don't think we're into taking stuff all over the place right now, but if we can provide some monetary assistance. The other thing, of course, is Frontera de Cristo, the Kino Border Initiative, and the Sisters of Notre Dame are lovely. If you go on Frontera de Cristo's website, they had a coffee and conversation the last 3 or 4 weeks. And it was lovely. And they had a guy, if you want to watch border videos being blown up, you know, they've got that on the one of them. They've got the nuns there and the memorable project they did with the crosses in the desert. And I've met a couple of those nuns. I took them stuff when people donated to me a year and a half ago. And Sister Judy, and I forget the other one's name, she just spoke the other night. They're adorable. So I'd be happy to give you their address too. And again, they work with Frontera de Cristo also. Oh, Sharon, by the way, said, if you want to go to Witness at the Border, Facebook. I don't do Facebook, but any of you do Facebook, go to Witness at the Border and you can learn a lot more. Okay. And at the end of the month, I will be going down in a more environmental capacity, hopefully, if COVID mellows out at the end of March, to kind of check out some of the construction that we know is still going on. So thank you. Thank you. And everybody knows a little bit and we all put it together, hopefully.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And then feel free to send me some of that, what you were talking about, and I will try to pass it on to Molly to see what can get into the newsletter.
Okay.
You know, and in addition to, if not, you know, please put in the chat your email address for people to get a hold of you. Okay.
I will.
Yeah, and Marianne and Jane, if you have anything to add, I think Marianne has some things. I think Jane, you may have heard some of the same things that Barbara has said. But let's start. Marianne, why don't you come on and tell us a little bit more about what you may have heard and also what you learned through the Sojourners. We're short in time.
Oh, sorry. I haven't been in contact with the person I know down at the border, who I worked with recently, so I don't know what's newest. So good that Barbara told you what she knows. I'll try to find out more. But then I also, Sojourners has their monthly conversation on immigration. The fourth Monday of every month, you can do it. It's called their Immigration Mondays. And it's a Zoom meeting, and they try to give you the latest updates on immigration bills. And for example, this past one that I went to or Zoomed in was
it was correct in the first time.
Was on the U.S. Citizens Act of 2021, and they wanted us to call senators and representatives to co-sponsor this bill, which is basically creating an 8-year pathway to citizenship for undocumented people who are in the U.S. So if you want the specifics of that, I can give it to you, or to just look up the bill, the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. It's supportive. They want our support in calling senators and representatives. And also you can even Google Sojourners and find out a summary of the bill, or again, what I emailed you has that information, Maria Elena. They also have, the Sojourners have Faith on the Phones every Thursday from February 18th through April 29th. They join to make phone calls They call Congress and administration officials, urging them to provide citizenship for all. So that's another good thing that they encourage. And the last thing that they encouraged at the last meeting was to call the Biden administration and urge them to stop deportations, expulsions, transfers and to ground all ICE air-related flights. For 100-day moratorium on most deportations was blocked by a Texas lawsuit, and now allowing mass deportations, especially of Black immigrants and asylum seekers, to continue at an alarming rate. So you're supposed to call the White House, DHS, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and urge them to stop deportations, expulsions, transfers, and ground all ICE-related flights. So it's just another resource to what we can do for immigration and its sojourners. That's it.
Thank you very, very much. That was amazing. You know, again, you know, if people want more information, go to Marianne, come to me, you know, we'll do it. Jane, anything to add? There's Jane. You need to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Well, you know, at the bottom on the left-hand side, there's a microphone.
She was unmuted. I don't know
Yeah, I know. I think she,
what happened.
yeah. Let me see. Can I unmute her?
No, we can't.
Wait. No, she's talking away. Shoot. And she obviously can't hear me because I'm saying, oh, here, Dick, can you unmute her?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, now
Okay.
we can. Thank you.
Okay, I contacted a friend that we have that lives in Agua Prieta. He's an American citizen that he has property on both sides, and of Douglas and Agua Prieta. And he was, Keoki is his name, Keoki Skinner. He's been a journalist, and he has tour groups, and he's just been amazing, all the work he's done. But he has had me take the 2 cars of donations of clothing and all the medical supplies, or, you know, shower supplies, you know, for bathing and all that down. And I've unloaded it all, the 2 loads I took down to his house in Douglas, and then he would come across the border and just take small amounts over to a building that I got to take a tour of in Agua Prieta. The Catholic Church built it a while back. It's a 2-story, beautiful building with a big kitchen, showers, bathrooms, rooms for them to change their clothes. And it was used for immigrants or people seeking asylum that were living in a shelter right on the border. They would be escorted by volunteers. The volunteers from the Presbyterian Church in the area, and they would bring them 2 at a time over to have a meal and get dressed, you know, take their showers and bathe and change their clothes. So this went on for, I don't know how long, actually. The building looked very new, but the Catholic Church is building another one very similar, and they're waiting for the people to start coming up to try to cross the border, immigrants seeking asylum. But he has, his wife is cooked in the kitchen, and it's moving along. And so he said they're going to need clothing is the big thing they're asking for to get ready. So I'm hoping I have all the info for you, but I'm just amazed at what Keoki has done down there as far as getting all the supplies across the border.
Okay, so thank you, Jane. We're going to try to get ourselves organized because apparently the Coyotes are doing very well in trying to convince people that there's going to be just a free border, and so there's going to be quite a number of people back again at the border. So we'll put the word out soon in terms of, you know, when people will be able to go back down to take things. I thank you very much, Jane. I wanted to add one more little thing. There's somebody else from our team who is working locally, you know, so in terms of getting information about vaccinations to the Latino community in our area. And she's going to be working on putting together a flyer. So if any of you are familiar or know of places where some of these flyers could be distributed, come to me and we will, because we have some people that we know in Prescott Valley, but none in Chino Valley. And we're trying to show people how they can access the vaccines, but more importantly, convincing them that they should. So that's going to be another project. Thank you very much. We've taken up a lot of time, and I don't have the program in front of me. So I think is it Jeff? I think you're next.
Oh, no, Jim.
Oh, sorry, Jim.
Jim.
Apologies,
Carrie,
Jim.
Carrie Hall is up next for environment.
Oh, okay.
So.
Hello.
Carrie.
Jim Stein and I are your environmental team co-captains, and I told him that I would present tonight. I'm going to share my screen and show you a little bit of what's going on. Really, Jim and I are going to try to pull as much information as we can together about what's going on in our area to keep environmental activism alive, and you doing a lot of work together. So there's so much going on, and I apologize in advance if I've left anything off because I just kind of hustled this up today. But I'm the community organizer for Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance. So I do a lot of work in the Northern Arizona region with that organization. And I also sit on the Yavapai Climate Change Coalition with Jim Stein. So what I'd like to do, we also have we had a really good turnout of people saying they were interested in being on our environmental team, which makes Jim and I super excited. So to kick that off, we're going to have a meeting next Wednesday, March 10th at 6 p.m. Jim sent out an email, and also there's a survey kind of giving you an opportunity to let us know where you stand on issues and where you see yourself. Hold on, I'm trying to reset my timer. Where you see yourself fitting into the work that we're doing. So it's essential that if you say you want to be on the team, that you come and join us and we can plug you into all the different work that's going on. I was really impressed by the last report. There was a lot of team, involvement in the reporting. So that's, I really, really like that. So I'm going to share my screen while I go over all of this. First of all, just because I thought maybe it'd be fun to look at something besides our talking heads for a while. So this is the NAZCA website. We have a lot of events that are coming up that I'm going to be talking about along with other organizations. But to kick us off, I do want to say though, first, let me pull this up. Can everybody see that? Well, first of all, I don't know if everybody can see my screen.
Yes.
Thumbs up. This is really exciting. So we've got Earth Week coming up in April. I'm not going to talk too much about it because we'll do all that in April. But the environmental team for Prescott Indivisible is going to be doing a community gathering on Earth Day. That's Thursday, April 22nd. We're going to be down at the courthouse from 2:30 to 4:30. And when I say community gathering, that's exactly what it is. We're going to have music. Everybody brings their chairs, blankets. We just kind of kumbaya over the earth. So, so that's exciting, and we'll need help with that. In addition to that, NAZCA has an entire Earth Week that starts on the 17th of April and goes through the 24th. And that is, it kicks off with a creek cleanup, family birding programs. The Yavapai Apache Nation is having a webinar of all Indigenous-led webinar, a food sovereignty and water panel. We have a Youth Climate Action Summit, Meatless Monday program. I think Molly Beverly with Prescott Slow Foods is going to be a part of that. Gary Beverly is going to help us with a short film festival. So lots going on. But most importantly, we have 3 in-person events for Earth Day that we'll need help with. So, so that's really exciting. And NAZCA is going to have a booth. They're educational on the 24th at Granite Creek Park, and that's what this cute graphic is that I'm very proud of. we're going to be promoting and partnering with Prescott Farmers Market on their community compost program. So we will have a hands-on compost. Kids get to put their hands in the worm soil and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's April. But right now, this Saturday, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but Save the Dells is having, I have no idea. Somehow I got onto this workshop. I signed up for it. I'm glad I did. I was just really surprised. Let me move this. Let me see if I can hide this really quick. So I can see what I'm doing here. So as far as Save the Dells goes, they're having a workshop this Saturday, and it's out at the Watson Lake Ramada, I believe, and it starts at 10. But it's pretty cool.
Carrie, it is by invitation too, to limit the
is
numbers.
it just organization?
Yeah, it's not an
Okay.
open, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting because at the bottom here, they have several candidates will be available following the conclusion of the workshop for a meet and greets, and like candidates are going to be there. I just thought that was really interesting.
What we're doing is helping petitions get signed. You'll see more on it in the next day or two. Keep your eyes open.
Oh, who's talking right now?
Barbara, this is Barbara.
Oh, okay,
Jacobson.
cool.
Okay.
That's awesome. And I know Jim's going too. So just so you know, NASCA and PI will be there. So that's
Great.
awesome. And then next up is going to be Monday the 8th. CWAG is having a brown bag webinar on Arizona's groundwater management, past, present, and future. All these links I'm going to drop in the chat box. Tuesday, March 7th, we have NASCA has a Writing to Spark Action, which is part of our March Media Madness program, which is also part of effective environmental activism. Just what Anna Tovar talked about, RTS, emailing, calling your state legislators, the commissioners, and then we're going to pivot to this city council, but we're creating like a whole active team that's really just focused on that. So it's like a writing workshop, so that'll be cool. On Wednesday, March 10th, we have a Youth Climate Action Team strategy meeting. I don't know if Riley Harrington is here, but I think PI has an environment youth team. I just wanted to do a little shout out that we have a youth team that we're looking for people to get involved with. CWAG on Friday, the Citizens Water Advocacy Group, for those that don't know what CWAG is, has a March 12th at 10 a.m. is the Governor's Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee meeting. Thursday, March 18th, NASCA has Effective Environmental Activism, Together We Are Stronger. Again, it's about RTS, calling your Senate representatives and emailing and creating strategies and campaigns around, SB 1175, what Commissioner Tovar talked about. Really having a big push that we continue. It's sustained. It's not just one phone call. So that is. That is on Thursday, March 18th. And then, I wanted to show you. So when we do that, this is pretty cool. Obviously, Sandy Barr and the Sierra Club does all this work for us. So if you go to their website and you go to legislative updates, this is number 9. Sandy Barr does all this work. It should never go unnoticed. And I know that PI puts together a lot of RTS and you do a lot of work too, which I really appreciate, but this is all environmental focused. So when we will be sharing this with everybody, and it's important because this state legislative moment is only 100 days, so we have to stay really engaged. And then we also have a back to up here, we have
Yeah, Carrie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We are so stretched for time here.
No problem.
I apologize. But you did put the links in the chat. Are you going to introduce Jeff, or do you want me to do that?
And here's Jeff Dauberman with Get Rid of GOSAR.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hey there, everybody. I'm going to use the communication team time today to talk about the Remove Paul Gosar campaign and the Call Your Dentist campaign. So as you know, our congressman has been getting some publicity over the past couple of months. First for being the one to try and invalidate our votes on January 6th after he invited people to Washington. And most recently, just less than a week ago, he got up at America First PAC, the lunatic fringe of the CPAC conference, which is already kind of lunatic in the first place. And so way off to the right there, he got a bunch of publicity. So about 3 weeks ago, we launched a campaign to try to get one of Paul Gosar's largest funders, the American Dental Association, to stop funding him. The idea was hatched by Jay Ruby, and he put together what he calls the Remove Paul Gosar Task Force, which is comprised of people from around the district, all around the district, from Yuma to Payson to Kingman, of course, Prescott, and it's a pretty amazing group of people. And so what we did a little over 3 weeks ago is we launched a video on Twitter, and we flooded the ADA's notifications, and we have been continuing to flood their notifications over the past 3 weeks on Twitter with all the mentions and all the retweets. So if you have helped with that, thank you. And if you still want to help with that, if you're on Twitter, when I'm done with my time here, I'm going to drop a few links in there. You can go and retweet those threads if you wouldn't mind, please. If you are not on Twitter, or even if you are, there is a phone number as well that we are trying to have a call-in campaign, and it seems to be working. They're definitely getting the message, and I know that what multiple people have told us is that the person who is passing on all the messages has conveyed that they are having discussions about what to do about this situation. Although they haven't done anything yet, even after our congressman stood on stage empowering and emboldening white supremacy less than a week ago. So the truth of it is that we need to keep the campaign going strong. And so pick up a pencil a second. The phone number is 312-440-2500. And I'll drop that in the chat as well if you don't get a pencil. Over the past week, there has been an immense amount of publicity around Paul Gosar's essentially fanning the flames of white supremacy by validating the AFPAC put on by Nick Fuentes, who was in Washington, D.C. on January 6th as a part of the insurrection. What I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to compile all of the publicity, all of the different articles that go all the way from the Daily Courier all the way up to the Washington Post and MSNBC. He was featured on Rachel Maddow on Monday night. Okay, we have to keep the pressure up. And so please call him tomorrow, 8:30 to 5:30 Chicago time. Give them a call and ask them why. First of all, you are in his district, so that carries a little more weight. So let him know you are his constituent, and why does the ADA continue to fund a man who, first of all, tried to invalidate our votes, who invited people to Washington for the insurrection, and who got on stage a week ago in empowering white supremacist ideology and tried to defend it the following day. Okay, so this campaign is continuing, and what we just learned is that on the 20th of March, a couple Saturdays from now, Paul Gosar, Karen Fan, and Walt Blackman are speaking at a fundraiser in Payson. Okay, so there are members of the Remove Paul Gosar Task Force in Payson, and they were thinking about doing a demonstration there. And the idea that we had is we should get people from all different places in his district to go to Payson and do an action. And so we are planning that. It is March 20th. It's in the afternoon. Okay, and so we need some folks to go over to Pace and be a part of this action. There are going to be people coming from Maricopa. There are going to be people coming from Coconino. There are going to be people coming from Pima. There are going to be people coming from Sedona and Cottonwood. We need some people to show up from Prescott. Okay. And essentially, we're going to have a little theme, and we're going to have some call and response, and we're going to really do our action for the camera. But because these people are there, we're going to make something of it.
So Jeff, we will be putting all this information out in the newsletters and special alerts so everybody can participate.
Thank you. I'll drop a bunch of links here. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Marion, you had something to say about, I'm not sure what.
Sure. I'm the team leader for the Peacekeepers, but in that we haven't been doing much public for quite a long time. Our Peacekeepers are pretty silent, but I just want to let people know that there is a new column in PI's newsletter. It's called The Nuclear Resistor, and it's a new edition that I have felt moved to really raise this issue again. I have been very active in it. I really cut my teeth, let's say, on activism on the nuclear power, nuclear weapons issue. And with all we've had going recently, and that, who in the White House, haven't been able to think about these things. So now that that is no longer a focus, and there is issues definitely that Biden can be moved on. And so I'm going to be doing the column on different aspects of nuclear weapons, nuclear power, what you can do, and have action alerts, who you should target, because it's always what kind of pressure we can put on the issue to make people and our legislators pay attention. That's about all. Nuclear Resistor, you'll know the column. It has the Bulletin of Atomic Scientist clock on half of it, and they have the clock at 100 seconds to midnight. And then the other half is showing a nuclear explosion. So look for that and check it out and catch up on these things. Thanks.
Thank you. Nikki Indakovich was going to speak on behalf of the education team, but she was kicked off. Carrie, is there anything that you wanted to?
I'm here. Maria.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you are. Nikki, I apologize.
It's because I'm so quiet and well-behaved.
No, I keep looking for your name. My camera's
indivisible.
My camera is right over your face.
No worries.
I am sorry, my dear. So go for it.
It looks like I have absolutely no time, 0 minutes exactly.
People are still on. So
I'm going to get through this quickly. So the education committee meeting was tonight. We had a good meeting. What we're working on now is some short-term and long-term goal setting for this group. So where do we see ourselves over the next couple of months as the legislative session plays out? And then we will turn our attention to the midterms. That's kind of the big focus for K-12 policy. It's going to take a lot of prep. So we're starting early, which I think is the best place for anybody concerned with Arizona schools right now, is to really start looking towards an election where we can make some changes in the Arizona legislature. So that group is meeting monthly right now. Our next group meeting is April 8th at 4. You guys are all welcome to attend. I'm going to leave my email address in the chat box. So shoot me an email if you have questions. And there it is. I think I did that in a minute.
Oh my God. What do you know? Do you want to have like 1 minute to talk about the opioid? No?
Oh, well, yeah, I can run through that. Also in my other life that I have, this one's an easy one to get through quickly. Here in Yavapai County, we've seen a serious increase in youth drug use. It has taken the lives of 18 kids across the county in the last 18 months. These are kids under 18. That's a massive number. It's a serious increase. It's directly related to fentanyl use, within our youth communities, which is especially dangerous. Here in Prescott Valley, we've suffered a deeper loss. Something about the demographics in this community just has really laid the groundwork for drug dealers to get very infiltrated into our young people. So I am forming a working group with the town of Prescott Valley, working with the mayor and the city council and Matt Force Coalition. I'll be chairing that for the next 18 months. It really is a partnership between law enforcement and families to cut down on availability of drugs and increase kids' abilities to say no to them in this community. So if you guys have questions about that, my personal email is the best way to reach out. I would advise you all, if you have young people in your life, please have a conversation with them about how deadly pills are, especially these days. If you need to get information or data to talk to your teens, I can send you flyers and we can talk you through what that looks like. Every single child in Yavapai County is at risk as long as these pills are on the street like this. We've had kids who took one pill and they paid with their life. So it is very deadly, very dangerous. I will attach all that as well. Okay.
Thank you so much. Anna's still on. I thank her for coming at very short notice and speaking with us. And this will give you, if you're new, an appreciation of everything that Prescott Indivisible does. We're like this big umbrella organization. And if you would like to step up and help with any of the teams or in any effort, you can write to info@prescottindivisible.org and we will answer you immediately. So again, thank you. Thanks to all of our presenters, and we'll have to do this more often. Yeah. Once a month isn't enough. So thank you all.
Thank you very much for leading this, Maria.
Oh, no, you.
No, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
you, Maria.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Crystal, bye.